Epler, I kid you not, he literally stopped off at the National Park Services and got a permit for everybody to collect the bats.
At least he's doing it through the right channels.
Like, he stops off, like, okay, he's a light colonel, and yeah, hey, we got to do the proper paperwork before we collect all these bats.
I respect it.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, okay, guys, nobody touch a bat until we get the paperwork filled out.
So it's like when we were telling our kids when we were going camping, our students, like, all right, if anybody wants to go fishing, you need a permit. We tried to like instill the fear of God into them.
Yeah, like the poaching sheriffs would come out and game and fish. Yeah. I remember telling one of them, like, hey, if you get busted for catching a fish you're not supposed to, I'm not posting your bail. Of course, it never would have happened, especially at the lake that we were at where the fish had more mercury in them than water.
Right. Meanwhile, when we got there, I had two of the students like pulling hooks out of fish mouths and stuff. It's fine.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Hello, welcome to the Day Dumpster Fire, where we don't celebrate humanity's successes, but its most fantastic failures. I am your host, Ed. With me, as always, was, soon to be, should be Kara.
Hello? Hello.
Hi, apparently I forgot all my tenses.
That's okay. I am really bad about tenses when I'm not actually trying, so I hear it. It's okay.
Yeah, and I never realized how bad I was at tenses until I got my new fancy keyboard. So like I'm typing along on it, and I hate this because everybody says, "Oh, it's super thocky and it's super creamy," and I really wish people would stop referring to their keyboard as creamy and everything. But I am literally typing up. There's a website out there where to practice typing, you can like transcribe books, and so I'm transcribing I think it's H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I'm just like I'm on chapter 2 right now, but I realize that as I'm typing like at 90 words a minute, I'm getting all my tenses screwed up. So
yeah,
I have no idea what time it is. I have no idea what time it was, and I have no idea what time will be.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Especially considering I've been writing papers for the last like 2 months, and my professor's like, this is good, but it can be better every single time.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate because it makes me better. But also, I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah. You kind of wish like, okay, is there a time when like this is just fine the way it is?
And it's only with the writing. Like everything else, 100%, nothing but good things to say. And then it's like the essay part. But like I said, it makes me better. So I don't hate it.
Well, you know what was actually surprisingly sufficient the first go around? Bat bombs.
Napalm bombs?
Yes.
Napalm bat bombs.
Yeah, napalm bat bombs, yes.
I like that. Oh, we got to put that on a shirt.
Yeah. Again, you got to do a drawing. You got to get a drawing out there with like this little bat, like got like a little 55-gallon drum of napalm like underneath it, like
he's all cute,
just flying along.
Little kamikaze bat.
He's got little aviator's glasses. The bat with aviator's glasses.
I like it.
Carrying a keg of napalm.
All right, we'll workshop that. Anyway.
Yes. And if you're joining us and this is like your first time coming to the Day's Dumpster Fire, you're probably wondering what in God's green earth is this about. Well, basically, the Day's Dumpster Fire, we look at all the times in human history where we try to map out something so that there is no way that it can possibly fail. And then 5 minutes after we implement the plan, it all just goes up in flames. Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. But we've all been there, and we've all been there where we thought like, man, dude, this is such a good plan. I'm going to get promoted, and my life is going to be perfect after this, and then it all just completely falls apart.
Do you ever try to put a party together and you think it's going to be great, and you invite all your closest family and friends, and you think, yeah, it's going to be awesome, and you dress up, and it's going to be fun where everybody's going to dance, and then everything just gets set on fire?
or like nobody shows up, or music doesn't work, or
a fire happens and everything just burns.
Yeah, I guess like
literally
like a legit fire.
A fire.
Yes. Well, and that's kind of what happened in here. So like, if you're joining us, you might want to listen to part 1, which I believe was episode 72. We are talking about the famous bat bomb idea from World War II. And basically put, right after Pearl Harbor was bombed, America was pissed. America wanted to exact some sort of revenge. And they did. They had the Doolittle raid, which was pretty cool, right? It knocked over some buildings in Tokyo and whatnot, and it really sent a message to Japan, but it really sent a message to America that, hey, Japan isn't this unimpregnable, undefeatable force. Like we can actually knock on their door, ring the doorbell, and run away with a flaming bag of dog poo on their porch and get away with it. What the heck does that have to do with bat bombs? Well, this little Doolittle raid kind of opened up the floodgates for anybody who had, crazy ideas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how wild the idea was. This is kind of the cool thing about a world war, is that, like, hey, if it looks stupid and it performs stupidly, but it gets the job done, it ain't stupid. Like, that's kind of the motto when you are trying to put together some sort of a game plan to defeat a massive enemy like the Japanese Empire during World War II. And that is exactly what happened. There was a dentist by the name of Dr. Lytle S. Adams. I keep wanting to say little. It's Lytle or lentil. So it's Lytle.
I don't think it's lentil.
No, it's not. But no. In the back of my head, in some deep annex in there, I just want to say lentil S. Adams. But
I just think of like a little green thing.
A little tiny dentist, little S. Adams. But yeah, where we kind of left off with on our last episode is this Dr. Adams, dentist. I believe he was from Pennsylvania, Irwin, Pennsylvania. Where we left off is like, this dude is very eccentric, maybe borderline crazy, but a dentist nonetheless. And he came up with this idea while he was in Carlsbad. It was Carlsbad, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I should have skimmed over this.
Yeah,
Carlsbad, New Mexico.
Yeah, Carlsbad, New Mexico. There we go. He was there on vacation because that's what dentists do, apparently, is go to southern New Mexico. And he saw
dentists and physicists.
Yeah, it's either that, or physicists. And it's funny how like New Mexico comes back into play here, both in the Manhattan Project and this bat bomb idea, our Project X-ray. But yeah, the idea that Lytle had was, we get a bat, right, and we strap a little thimble full of napalm on it, and napalm is really, really, really nasty stuff. It burns pretty hot. It burns for a long time. It's like gasoline, but gelatinized.
Yes. We also talked about napalm on our Vietnam episode.
Yes. Yeah. That
a little bit more detail.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I think it's one of those things that really should just not be a part of war, just because the injuries that it inflicts is absolutely horrific.
Yeah, it's a bad deal.
Yeah. My I've had family that were in Vietnam, and yeah, they would go to pick up bodies on the ground that were burned to death by napalm, and like their skin was crispy, and it would just, it was some nasty stuff. But the idea that Dr. Adams had was, we take our bat, we put a little explosive thingy on it full of napalm, and then we drop a couple thousand of these bats all over Japan. And the idea is that these bats will then want to fly to like attics and alcoves, bridges. Like, these things would just fly anywhere. to, hang out, because they're like, one day they're just minding their own business in New Mexico, and then the next day they are being shoved out of a plane over Japan, and they're like, this isn't Mexico. What's going on? So the bats would find a place to hide, and eventually a little timer would go off, and it would ignite the napalm. Unfortunately, it would ignite the bat to go with it, and then it would start fires.
I hate that.
And these fires, like, people would be like, okay, why can't we just drop incendiary bombs? Well, that's exactly what the Americans did, is they would, especially towards the end of the war, like 1944 or 1945, they would just drop these incendiary bombs, where each incendiary bomb could have like maybe a 40 building diameter, like blast radius kind of a thing. It was projected that these bat bombs could actually do like 400 buildings. So like, this thing, if it actually worked, could be almost as devastating as the nuclear bomb, which was being developed in New Mexico at the same exact time that Dr. Adams had this idea. So we have two very wide-ranging projects here, both of which nobody, like, including President Roosevelt, had any idea if it was actually going to work.
Yeah.
But probably the coolest thing about this is how Lytle got the project to Roosevelt. And Lytle, or Dr. Adams, took his plan to the military. The military's like, this is the most bad-brained idea ever. Go away. So what did Adams do? He went over the United States president's head and went straight to the real person in charge, Eleanor Roosevelt, his wife. And Eleanor Roosevelt and Dr. Adams were actually good buddies. And she basically took the idea and presented it to Roosevelt. And then Roosevelt was like, oh, yeah, it's a crazy idea, but it's worth trying. So Project X-Ray was in the works as a result.
Cool.
That's a gross summarization of everything. There is a lot more stuff going on, especially some of the crazier weapons that came about and everything. So, yeah, if you're just joining us, like, yeah, you can probably get through this episode and be fine. But I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 72. The other thing, too, is, like, you'll probably notice this episode is coming out on Wednesday. So part 1 came out on Monday. And then normally we would have 2 weeks in between episodes, but I want to try to get this one out sooner. So by the time you are done with part 1, part 2 will be out like 2 days later. So hopefully if you're listening to this, you've already listened to part 1. And if this is your first time on the show and like this is your first introductory episode, go back, listen to episode 72, and then come to this one if you want the full effect. The full
experience.
Yeah, the full HD experience.
Right. All the things.
The experience. All the things, yeah.
Yeah. All the things.
Yep. You will be a happier person for listening to the previous episode. We had the Manhattan Project going on. Manhattan Project is filled with all sorts of really, really, really smart men. And even some women were involved, like women scientists.
Yep.
And it was, on a side note, it's kind of funny because these men scientists were like, well, we can't have women on the project. Not because they were women or because they were bad scientists or whatever. They were actually very competent scientists. And a lot of the men in the Manhattan Project were like, yeah, these women are very, very, very capable. But they didn't know what prolonged exposure radiation was going to do to them.
They were worried about babies.
Yeah, worried about the whole reproductive thing. And it's true.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah.
What if they don't want babies? Like, it's their decision.
But yes, it is their decision. And they may not want babies at that time, which is fair, right? Women should have the right to have babies whenever they want. But if a woman is exposed to too much radiation, then it can cause the eggs to get genetically corrupted. And then when they do decide to have a kid, birth defects and all that kind of stuff.
If they decide to have a kid.
Yes. But I would assume that there was a good possibility that some of the women maybe would want kids. And
maybe, but if they're super smart scientists, then they know exactly what they're getting into, or at least they have an idea of what they're getting into, and they can make that decision themselves.
Yeah, well, and that's where like you'd want to go back and listen to Oppie's Demon Core, because I kind of go in a lot more detail about like the radiation part of it, how the radiation affects the body and all that kind of stuff. So like, yeah, the issue was that they really fully didn't quite understand the long-term effects of radiation because this is all uncharted territory.
Sure, I get that. I'm just saying I don't care that the men are concerned about reproduction because that has been the bane of women's existence for all of mankind.
Well, I think what the issue... Okay, there's two types of concern. And I think a lot of these scientists had the legitimate concern, like, hey, we really don't know what this is going to do. And if you do decide to have kids down the road, this could negatively impact it. But then there's the other kind of concern where it's more like, we just don't want women involved. So we're going to use the whole birth thing as an excuse not to have them on the project.
Yeah.
I think there's two types of concern.
That first concern is still you're worried about reproduction when it should just, maybe you should worry about your own reproduction instead of hers.
Yeah, but I don't think that's out of the question. Like, hey, just, we don't know.
I know.
Especially at the time, they legitimately had no idea what the long-term effects were going to be.
I know. I'm just saying. It's been a whole thing for like ever in patriarchal societies. And it drives me mad. Well,
and I think, and a lot of it is, I think there's the excuse of using the whole reproductive thing as a means to control.
Yes.
And that has been abused time and time again. But I think with the Manhattan Project, I think for the most part, these professors were like, we just don't know. And hey, we want to throw that out there in case if she wasn't aware, because these were mathematicians. These were walking, talking calculators.
Right.
So they would have even less idea of what radiation was going to do. But yes, I see the point. Yeah. But what didn't have this problem was Project X-ray.
True.
Even though an X-ray is a radioactive.
Yeah,
that is kind of weird. But there was no radiation involved here.
No, just a lot of bat deaths, which is also unfortunate.
Yeah, and some really, really weird stuff that went down. So, yes, we had the Manhattan Project going up there, which turned into a female reproductive rights discussion.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. Hey. You've got very strong views.
I do. I have strong feelings when it comes to women in history.
Yeah, especially men determining what women can do.
Yes. It drives me insane.
Yeah. So when we look at Project X-ray, now that Adams got the okie dokie from Roosevelt himself, the next step was to create an elite team of scientists, kind of like the Manhattan Project, right? You want the best of the best out there. You really want people. And here's the thing. Nobody on Dr. Adams' team, nobody really knew about the Manhattan Project. So it wasn't like they were competing. If I make it out that way, like they are competing, no, I'm just comparing the two projects. So if you're Dr. Adams and you got the go ahead and the money now to put together this bat bomb thing, then yes, let's put together the most elite team, like the Avengers, to like burn down Japan.
Okay.
Because I mean, this is the same guy that honestly believed that the bat served no purpose in nature, but it was put there by God for America to use to bring down the Japanese.
Yeah, I know.
He was a little out there.
He was special.
Yes. Yes. So some of the key people he recruited with the skills needed to put something like a bat bomb together were Dr. Jack von Blocher. I love the name Blocher.
That's pretty good.
Yep. He's a mammologist from the Los Angeles Museum of Natural Science. It's the one that's in LA.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess actually do some legitimate research there. So
yeah.
Cool. Have a guy that may actually know something about bats on the team. Good. We have Lieutenant Tim Holt. So he is a pilot that I don't know if he was a good pilot or whatever, but at the age of 24, he became an actor, like a Hollywood actor.
That is the most 1940s thing I've ever heard.
Yes. Yeah. He's probably like a real handsome piece of a man.
Oh, hold on. Let me look.
Oh, you're going to look him up?
Yep.
Yeah, we might as well have him in the show notes on the website, thedaysdemsterfire.com.
Yes.
Please tell me he just looks like an idiot.
He just looks like a dude.
Okay.
He's just a dude. Yep. He's in some westerns.
You know, he looks like, he just looks like a dude.
He's just a dude. He's a dude, bro.
Actually, what he kind of reminds me of when I brought up his picture, he kind of reminds me of like a character from the Fallout television series.
I could see that. Is it the cowboy hat?
Yeah, and the outfit and everything. Like, man, this is a ghoul in the making.
Yep. That's so funny.
So yes, we have Lieutenant Tim Holt, pilot turned actor. Okay.
He was in the movie Stagecoach, 1939. If you ever wanted to check out.
I'm sure there's a place on the team for him of elite brains to put together a bat bomb. Then we have brothers Bobby and Eddie Harold.
Okay.
Bobby was an ex-hotel manager, and Eddie was like a workout enthusiast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Eddie was like he's like that dude you always see like in Instagram shorts that's like, you know, like here's my protein recipe, and then he's doing all these workouts and all that kind of stuff. And again, an ex-hotel manager and a workout guy. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the job interview process for that.
I'm just trying to figure out what role they're gonna play.
Yeah.
But okay. All right.
Yeah. You asked about temperature.
Right.
Probably one of my favorites here is Patricio Patsy Batista, claimed to be a gangster who worked for Al Capone back in the day.
Ah, friend of the pod. Good old Al Capone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we know Al. On a first name basis.
We've mentioned
apparently.
him a couple of times, like everything from like tax evasion to
Alcatraz to syphilis. It's all there.
No, Al really checked a lot of boxes in the early 1900s. So
good old Al Capone.
Good old Al.
If you do actually want to hear about Al Capone and the gangsters of the 1920s, go check out our Prohibition episode, the last one, episode 4.
Yeah. What episode number was that?
I don't remember the actual episode number. I just remember it's the 4th one out of the series.
Yeah, it is Prohibition. Yeah, that would be episode 62.
There you go.
We actually get a lot of episodes. This is kind of cool.
We do,
We actually have a library to refer to.
Al Capone. Episode 62.
Anyways, Patsy Batista, again, perfect candidate for making a bat bomb project. Al Capone, gangster, so he says. There's actually nothing that confirms it.
I will not confirm or deny based off of my current memory. I'd have to go check. I'll have to go look.
Again, I'd want to be there on the interview process.
Yeah.
We've got another set of brothers here, Frank and Mark Benish.
Okay.
They're just a random set of brothers.
Awesome. Love that.
So like this is quickly turning into like a Deadpool interview process. Like, like luck is not a superpower. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yeah, no, it is. We've got Ray Williams. He is a lobster fisherman turned Marine.
Okay. I kind of understand the marine part.
Yeah.
Maybe we like lobster for lunch. That's cool. All right.
Yeah. Sure. I mean,
cool. I'll take a lobster lunch and marine knowledge on this mission. That one's a little more useful. I'll take that one. I'll buy that.
Yeah. Compared to the two random brothers and the workout enthusiast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Lieutenant Tim Holt, like at least he's a pilot. Like
that's understandable. I can buy that.
And then we've got Jack, I think it's Kaufer, Jack Kaufer and Harry Fletcher. Two high school students. And they worked part-time with Dr. Jack Von Blocher in his lab.
Okay. I'll take apprentice of the Bat guy. That's cool.
Yes.
Batman, Robin, and Robin. Perfect. All right.
I mean, hey, these two kids, man, like, now that, imagine putting that on your college application.
That'd be cool.
That would be, like, by the time I graduated high school, I already had like a top grade security clearance working for the military on a top secret bomb. And of course, after the war, everybody would be like, "Oh, you're on the Manhattan Project." Yeah. It was
That's the one.
Yeah, just like the Manhattan Project. Nothing about bats. So actually, and Jack Kaufer, he actually wrote a book that in the early 90s that really expounded upon this whole project. So these two dudes actually play a part. And then probably the only guy that is actually really, really, really qualified other than Dr. Jack Von Blocher, we have Dr. Theodore Fisher. He was a Harvard chemist. So like, straight up professor of chemistry, PhD in chemistry. And he got put on the team because he had just recently developed the composition of napalm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to see Fisher come up many, many times because he's like the legit brains of this whole operation who he really tries to make this work, right? He takes Dr. Adams' vision and Fisher really applies his know-how to make this work.
So we've got the bad news bears of scientists here.
This is literally, for the most part, this is the group of people that applied to be on the Manhattan Project as like janitors and got rejected.
It's like any sports comedy ever. Bad News Bears, The Replacements, whatever it is. You got the team of misfits with the one good player.
Yes.
That's where we're at. I like it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Avengers, but it's more like the Derangers.
Okay.
Like, this is the most out of touch type of cast you could possibly imagine for a top secret military project.
The ex-hotel manager and the workout enthusiast. It's good. It's a good cast of characters. I like it.
And then you've got Frank and Mark Benish, who are just some random set of brothers.
Just like some dudes, yeah.
They got lost and walked in on the interview process. Like, what's this all about? Well, and the brothers like, we're in. I got nothing going on. Do you have anything going on? No, I'm good, man. Hey, we're not hiring you because you don't have any qualifications. It's fine. We're fine. We'll start tomorrow.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll wing it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So out of the entire team, there was only like 2 legit scientists. The rest were a bunch of dudes who were waiting to be a part of like Deadpool's X-Force, right? But they settle on the next best thing, which was to build a bomb full of explosive bats.
All right.
The hiring of 2 scientists and even their student interns makes sense. But the hiring of a former mob member, a lobster fisherman, makes no sense. And it didn't to most of the people associated with the team. So the military was obviously watching this. And the military is like, Adams, what are you hiring? Like,
who are these people?
Yeah. Can you help me understand the logic behind who it is that you're hiring? And who knows? But Adams was very charismatic. He had a way of selling things to people in a way that people would inherently want to just get on board with, right? He's the kind of guy that he's like that manager that would tell you that, hey, we are, instead of doing a pay raise, we're doing a pay decrease, and he can sell it to you in a way that gets you excited for it.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys. His rhetoric was always ensconced in the realm of pathos. He would play up human emotions. Hence the whole like men are expensive and their families, or the men are brothers, their fathers, and so on and so on. Where bats are expendable, and so like he was real big on the whole playing up emotions.
Right.
So like cool. But sometimes like that would get in the way of putting the right people in the right spot. And I think for this project, everybody that he selected except for Fisher, they really had no place on the team. I think Fisher was the guy that really was the one like, okay, this is a crazy idea, but I think I can make it work. So with the elite, in air quote, the elite team of experts selected, the task was to start hammering out the specifics of how to build the bat bomb. There were a few things they had to work out. Apparently, you do actually have to come up with a plan, right? You can't just find some random flappy thing in the sky, strap a bomb onto it, and expect it to work, right? This is why they brought on these experts and these elite contributing members, is so that they could work out these details. So, first thing, what species of bat was going to be the best fit for the job? So this would also entail how the hundreds of thousands of bats would be captured. So got to find the right bat, and you got to find enough of them.
So just picture this quickly. I'm so sorry. We've got our maybe not mobster, our two random brother guys, the workout enthusiast, the ex-hotel manager, what have you, running around Austin, Texas at around 4 p.m. in the river trying to catch bats with their bare hands. Just picture, if you will.
They had nets.
Okay. Even better. They look like SpongeBob and Patrick trying to catch jellyfish.
And they're getting peed on.
And pooed on. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Kara and I are speaking from experience.
It's true.
Yeah, we were in Austin and we did that barge or that boat ride thingy right around like 4:30 when all the bats started to take off. And it's a really cool thing. Like it's like check that off my bucket list. The only issue is that like when they were flying over, it feels like a really, really light rain, like a mist. And that's bat excrement.
That's the poop.
Yep. Fresh from the cloaca.
Yeah. Good thing I have all my shots.
I thought you were going to say something about a cloaca and be like, no, you don't have one of those.
No.
Shots. That would be weird.
Vaccines. Anyway.
But yes. Yeah. You got all your shots. No psittacosis for you. Nope. So yeah, first things first, you got to find the right bat. Then you got to figure out how you're going to capture all of these bats. Then came the issue of what sort of incendiary would be best used. How will the bats wear the mini bomb and still be able to fly? So there's some engineering that has to get involved with that.
Okay.
Admittedly. Keep in mind timer technology. So like you can't just let the bat out of the plane and then this immediately burst into flames. Like that would be a fireworks demonstration more than anything.
Yeah.
You gotta have a timer. And if there was one invention that vexed so many military R&D folks during World War II, it was the freaking timer, right? You can't use an alarm clock because they're big, and to try to make like a really, really small timer that was accurate and reliable. That was like the one thing that came out of World War II that like most people that were on these projects, like trying to time something to go off at a specific time was an absolute nightmare. For example, there was 100+ assassination attempts of Hitler, and all of them failed because of a bad timer.
There's a movie about it.
Yeah, Valkyrie.
Yeah, but also you could also just like read the actual story. I think the actual story is better than the movie. But anyway,
and actually,
I digress.
In Valkyrie, that timer actually went off on time.
Oh, okay.
That one actually did go off at a correct time. The problem was that where Hitler's suitcase was, where the colonel's bag that he had the bomb in was located underneath a solid concrete desk. And that absorbed much of it. And that would actually be a good episode. Like spend some time on all the bad ways of trying to kill Hitler.
Oh, the jokes in my head. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm going to put that on the spreadsheet of ideas.
Please do.
Because there were so many of them. So yes, a timer. And so we've got to make that work. Once selected, the bats would need to be collected and chilled. Okay. So like you got to put the bats into like a hibernation stage so that you can put them inside of a bomb and they're not just flapping all over the place and going crazy.
I feel like Batman, Robin, and Robin are doing a lot of heavy lifting in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I have visions of like, because the bats they used were tiny. They were only like a few inches long. And I could just vision them like little clips, like hanging them on these little perches upside down inside of a bat bomb. Just
imagine the workout enthusiast trying to be delicate with his giant hand.
Yeah, he comes in. He's just carrying this massive, like 5-foot bomb on his shoulders, plops it down, and then the next job is to hang these tiny little bats up, like in each little.
Also, that is not historically accurate. We are making jokes.
Yes,
FYI.
yeah. But this is one of these stories where you can blur the lines between historical accuracy and straight up comedy. There's just, and wait till when stuff like once we actually get to the part where stuff actually goes wrong. So yeah, we've got to chill the bats down so that you can put them into a bomb so that you can be dropped out of a plane and then they can wake up and do their thing. How were the bats going to be transferred to the target so that they can wake up in time and, save democracy? Then there was the matter of testing and supplying results that the military could actually use. So these were some of the things that this elite team of experts had to tackle. So let's take this one at a time because the devil's in the details here. So the team selected the Mexican free-tailed bat as mentioned before, especially in part 1. It seemed like Dr. Adams was truly a fan of these things. According to Pfizer, and we're going to see him come up a lot, he did a lot of testing with this bat, and especially on their lifting capacities. And so, yeah, he would have bats, so like they're flying, they have like a little string attached to their leg or whatever. And then like he was hanging weights off of it, so he'll try to fly away and carry weights with it and stuff like that. He concluded that a 10-gram bat could lift about 20 to 30 grams, so about 2 to 3 times their weight. Again, Pfizer's like, this is good information, right? If you're going to try to make this work, it's probably good to kind of like Mythbusters it and start small and work your way through it. So good on him. The project was going to be housed just outside of LA so that millions of bats could be captured and moved to a nearby location. I think it was Muroc, California, or Edwards Air Force Base today. The military and Adams agreed that his team would be responsible for collecting 3,000 bats for testing purposes. The military, they were going to catch the rest. So cool. Good on the military. A bunch of highly trained Marines just running around with nets and
SpongeBob and Patrick.
And admittedly, like you can just go into these caves and during the day and you can just like pluck them off.
That's
got
true.
one, put it in bag, one right after another. Once again, Dr. Fraser was put to use in determining what sort of bomb the bats were going to wear. So I'm going to go over this really, really fast because he was the inventor of napalm. I think that was like the main reason why he was selected for this. The original plan was to use a substance called red phosphorus. Now, red phosphorus is cool because once it hits air, it ignites. So, like, red phosphorus is gnarly. There's an episode in the making there where they used to use red phosphorus to make matches. And all the health issues that derive from people ingesting this stuff, being exposed to it, breathing it in, kind of like the radium girls, but with matches. Yeah, gnarly stuff.
Yeah.
Only problem is that it's very, very toxic, and it stood a high chance of killing the bats before they could even do anything. Not to mention, you run the risk of the bat bomb, quote unquote, detonating and catching on fire in the plane.
Oh, yeah. That would be a problem.
Yeah, a lot of pilots did not like dealing with red phosphorus.
Understandable.
In fact, I think the two guys in this whole story that actually have like the most logic about them, or the most level-headed, are the two pilots that fly the B-25 during this whole process. Nobody on the team. No, these are just two guys that are just like, what did we get signed up for? So this is where Fraser is like, hey, let's use napalm. And napalm is put together by mixing naphthenic and palmitic acids with like gasoline or benzene or kerosene or whatever. And in the process of doing that, you make like a gelatinized form of this stuff. So it's sticky and it gets everywhere and it burns hot. I guess one way you can do this, if you take gasoline and then you grab like styrofoam or polystyrene and you put it in there, it will actually turn into like a gelatinous goop. And then what a lot of people will do is they'll take that gelatinous goop and then they'll put it in like an empty soup can with some cardboard or whatever, and it makes for a great fire starter. So just do me a favor, don't make any of this stuff at home. Trying to make your own napalm, dude, this stuff will burn down your house. It is very hard to put out, and the injuries that you could sustain from it is awful. Normally, napalm was crammed into a 55-gallon oil drum with a detonator attached and then dropped from a plane. And the real goal behind it is that when it drops, it makes a mile-long explosion. It's like a wall of fire. I actually saw this at an air show one time where they detonated napalm from a plane just to kind of show people, and it was out like a mile away, super far away. But even when that thing was so far away, we could all in the audience feel the heat coming from this. It would be hundreds of feet up in the air and about a mile long in length. And like I said, it's just a wall of fire. So like if the fire doesn't get you, its other purpose was to burn up all the air. So like there was no way to breathe around this stuff. Or you would suffocate from the smoke or whatever. I kid you not, napalm is on par in terms of its brutality, in terms of killing people, is on par with the nuclear bomb. At least the nuclear bomb, it's an instantaneous vaporization, and that's it. If you're lucky enough to be close enough, if you're on the outside of the blast radius, then yeah, you're sustaining horrific burns and radiation and all that kind of stuff. Napalm is nasty. And they figured this would work out great because, yes, our little bat bombs would be tiny, the little small explosives. But they figured since all of Japan was made of paper, which, again, the racial stereotyping, amazing for the time period. They figured, hey, since all of Tokyo is made with paper, it would go off easier. Anyways, now came the matter of getting the bat and bomb to become one effective unit. So AC Gilbert, a company famous for making the ubiquitous toy Erector set, came up with and produced the timers needed for our little bats. The key was to make them small enough and accurate enough to detonate when the bats got to the ground and settled into an unassuming Japanese house. It also had to be light. Basically, I think these things were set for like a 15-minute timer so that once they got out of the bomb, 15 minutes later, it would go off. It's funny how a toy company got involved making weapons.
I don't know. Considering the scale of manufacturing during World War II, I'm actually not surprised.
Yeah, everybody repurposed during the war. To mount the little bat bomb to the bat, Phaser resorted to basically super gluing the 15 to 17 and a half gram bomb to the bat. A weight well within the lift capabilities of the Mexican free-tailed bat. So like instead of like a little harness, right? I think it would be adorable. Like it'd be like bat wearing a vest and stuff like that. But no, he just super glued it essentially to the bats.
I don't like that, but okay.
Yeah. Really, the ones that got the worst shake in all this were the bats for sure. The next step was to get the freshly collected bats from New Mexico and Texas to California. On the surface, it seems like a weird mini game inside Animal Crossing when you really think about it, where you would run around a cave with a net and try to catch as many bats as possible, then stick them in a container with a prepaid postage label to Los Angeles. However, in order for the bats to properly do their job, they would need to be in hibernation mode. So the bats would have to be cooled. It was actually getting pretty warm. We're approaching May for the first test time. So getting pretty warm. These bats aren't going to fall asleep so easily. To help with this problem of logistics, the Army came in clutch at Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio. And they came in with a custom built refrigerated truck. Fun fact, if you ever see a refrigerated semi truck going down the road and you see the brand name Thermo King, that was the company that was contracted to make the first refrigerated bat transports.
Nice.
Yeah. What a legacy. The truck had a special refrigeration mechanism that could be adjusted to any temperature needed. Since these early large refrigeration units weren't super reliable or fast to chill things down, it was determined that the trucks would be set to the coldest setting prior to picking up our freshly caught bats to reduce fuel usage and the time for the truck to get down to temperature and everything. So they're like, okay, turn this thing on, set it to max, let's go. Now is time to figure out how to actually bombify thousands of bats so that they can be dropped on a target all at once. Our mega smart team put together the epitome of American ingenuity and planning of a bomb. They planned to use a 5-foot tall metal canister with a 1.5-inch diameter holes drilled around the outside to let the bats do 3 things while in transit. Okay. 1, while the bomb is being transported usually in the belly of a bomber, the holes in the bomb itself would house like 1,030 bats, and the bomb had to start to warm the bats up. And then the other thing is that they had to be able to fly out of the canister after they woke up. So that's what the holes are for. It was to bats wake up. Oh, hole, fly out. Lastly, but more importantly, breathe. Dead bats in a bomb are nothing more than a bioweapon of disease and an incendiary weapon of mass Japanification. And yeah, I made that up. De-Japanification. There we go.
I don't know how I feel about the term.
Yeah, neither do I. I was really tired when I wrote this. So, but at that time, the Americans would have been like, "Oh yeah, let's go with that." So yeah, the canister could hold to 1,030 bats, and the B-25 bomber that was intended to drop these things could hold up to 25 of these shells. So 25 times 1,030, we're talking 26,000 bats in one payload.
That's a lot of bats.
That's a lot of bats, a lot of napalm.
Yep.
A lot of little fires in a stereotypical vision of Tokyo. That's a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
Each bat was clipped to its niche inside the shell, and a little wire stemmed from the napalm charge / timer combo to the perch. The upside down bats were clipped to. So basically, you know how like you see film footage of soldiers jumping out of a plane, right? And as soon as they jump out, their parachute immediately is deployed. That's because their parachute is connected to a cable inside the plane, so that once you fall out of the plane, that cable pulls the parachute automatically. Okay, this is the same principle here, except for that when the bat leaves the shell or the canister, that cable is like it automatically deploys the timer. It's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
like I got to give him credit.
It's pretty smart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real simple idea. It's like it works. It's tested. Let's go for it. So, okay, yeah. Once over the target, the shells would be dropped at 4,000 feet. A parachute would deploy out of the bomb, thus slowing the rate of descent. Right. So that you'd see like this canister just kind of like swinging in the air. It was just coming down. But that was intended to give the bat some time to wake up, fly out, and start looking for a place to hang up for the night. And so like I could just imagine the Japanese, they would see like this giant can just like drift to the ground, and they're like, okay, what are the Americans up to? They're trying to bomb us, but they forgot the bomb. Like, all right. Must have been a very confusing sight if they ever got that far.
Yeah.
Note, okay. Today we have bombs, missiles, rockets, etc., which operate with surgical precision. Modern propelled explosives are like laser guided with GPS assist and all sorts of other top secret technology that when deployed, the projectile can be guided to a specific window outside the target and only destroy a specific thing. It is scary how accurate bombs can be today, where like they can take out a target in the middle of a populated city and not think anything of it. It's wild. And not like destroy everything around it. However, though, in World War II, no one cared about precision. This is
pure firepower.
Japan we're talking about. What's that?
Pure firepower. That's all they cared about.
Yeah, it's just like many Americans just wanted to see the whole country go up in flames regardless of the target. They didn't care that women and children were being killed. Nobody really cared. It was just, hey, just level the country, right? And it was the same thing on the European front and all that kind of stuff. So again, a very, very different mindset. Accuracy was irrelevant just as long as the right country was being bombed. And that was kind of what the bat bomb was about. The bat bomb was not about precision. It was just mass destruction.
Yeah.
That's all it was for. Like, who cares if it takes out the emperor's palace? That would be like a cherry on top. But if it took out like a neighborhood and like a daycare center, hey, that works too. It's a really weird mindset.
That is a really weird mindset. That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Lastly, Adams and his team of super scientists ultimately reported to the Army. While the Army likes to see explosions and total destruction, believe it or not, they also like numbers and figures and projections and accurate results even more. Right? When you are in an industry of killing people, yeah, there's a lot of accounting involved. And the military is all about that.
Some statistics.
Yeah, statistics.
Some statistics.
Logistics. The really like the unexciting things about a war is what the military is all about.
Yeah.
Because you got to, not only do they have to like kill the enemy, they have to be able to reproduce it over and over and over again. And it was almost like some of these meetings, it was almost like sales figures. Oh, yesterday we killed X thousands of the enemy. Today we want to go for a 5% increase, day over day or week over week. And, like a lot of people in companies, they have these morning huddles where they kind of go over the sales figures from the day before, the week before. Same thing, just in military terms. And instead of sales, it is human lives. So Once again, Adams turned to Dr. Fisher. To be honest, I have no idea what anyone else was doing on this project. I really couldn't find much information on it. I do want to get was it Jack Colfer's book, because I think he kind of shed the light on some of what they were doing, but I just can't get the book in.
They're
right
working
now.
out and writing letters to Alcatraz.
Yes. So, hey, Al, how's the syphilis treating you? Does it still burn when you pee? So,
oh gosh.
So, Dr. Fisher was assigned to come up with some projections of the destruction of the potential of what these things were capable. These bat bombs were going to be capable of. Fisher concluded that a standard incendiary bomb could start approximately 400 fires, not 40. 400 fires after detonation. I'm not sure how we got this figure, but seeing as Dr. Fisher seems to be the only one of a few people with working brain cells on this project, I'm going to trust his assumption, right?
That's fair.
Yeah. The bat bomb, however, according to Fisher, could start up to 4,800 fires with one pass. That is a 12 times increase of destructive power. So there's some potential here. Right? This bat bomb is a crazy idea, but man, if you could deploy it, it could wreak a lot of havoc. And it's not like something you can just shoot out of the sky because it's so small. And what you do with a bunch of farmers with shotguns start shooting bats out of the air? Like, yeah, you really can't defend against it. In essence, the bat bomb idea could be the middle ground between a conventional bomb and the nuclear bomb that was also being worked on at the same exact time. But of course, nobody knew about the nuclear bomb. Only the communists, only the people that Oppenheimer was sleeping with at the time. Only Oppenheimer's brother and a lot of his socialist / communist friends that he went to college with.
Right.
So other than the actual project and the 50,000 other people that Oppenheimer knew who kind of spilled the beans to, it was a pretty secure program. And yes, there were actual Soviet spies in the Manhattan Project.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, that's actually what did Oppenheimer in eventually. It seemed as though Adams and his crew had worked out pretty much everything. Okay, here we are. Here's the dumpster fire, or the dumpster. Adams and his crew figured out everything. What could possibly go wrong?
Right? What could go wrong? Sending a lot of bats with napalm strapped to them.
Yeah. No, this is
questionable timers made from toy products.
So yeah, it is actually. I do give them credit. They really did think this through. They really did do a lot of research, I guess, and they really put the effort into it. So Fisher's projections raised a lot of eyebrows with the military leaders, covered in brass and ribbons, and medals for stuff that they haven't really done in 30 years. So I always love it when you see a military leader with all these medals on them. And it's like, what did you do? My favorite are like North Korean generals, right? And they're standing there and their whole breast is just nothing but all these medals. And it's just like, what did you do to earn these?
How?
Yeah. How? It's like, what? There's not even enough. The last war that you guys were in was in the 50s. Or you look at those African warlords and they take over their country. And again, they're just loaded with all these accolades and medals and ribbons. It's like, you took over the government with 50 dudes and AK-47s. What? What is going on here? So, but that's just a tirade on me. I honestly, I think if you have a general, you wouldn't know that they're a general by how they dressed. They may have a star on their hat and that's it. You don't need to walk around sounding like a china cabinet or a wind chime of crap to get your point across. But anyways, by May 15th, and the dates get a little wonky here. I saw some dates were like as early as May 10th and others was like May 17th. Guys, just it's in May, middle of May. Okay.
Mid-May. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, we'll just go with that. 1943. It was time to test this. So Fraser and 2 officers from the Army's Chemical Warfare Service arrived in SoCal, as in like Southern California, and proceeded to Adams' house for like a pre-test discussion of this like insanely top secret, heavily guarded. If you know, you know, like nobody knows about this type of project. Okay.
So they naturally told the newspapers.
Adams. Adams, much to Fraser's horror, was like he shows up there. And Adams had invited a large company, including ladies and like reporters, to a dinner party in celebration of the initiation of field tests.
Nice.
So, like, I could only imagine Fraser, who is like, because the military brought Fraser into this program. Like, we don't know what this Adams guy has got going on. So, Fraser, we need you to kind of like keep it grounded for us, please. That would be great. Instead of being a top secret, Adams did the exact opposite and decided to celebrate his accomplishment with a bunch of people who should know nothing about this project.
Mm-hmm.
There is something about top secret weaponry in World War II that seems to leak like a sieve, right? A dumpster fire in its own right. Oppenheimer knowingly recruited communists, and even his security clearance. Oppenheimer knowingly recruited communists, and even his security clearance uncleared brother to Los Alamos. So, like, Oppenheimer brought in all sorts of people, and it was like, trust me, military, I know what I'm doing. So
great.
To make matters worse, Adams' team was supposed to collect, 3,000 bats from New Mexico. They only had 150.
Oh, good.
So, according to Adams, it was a mating season. And I guess during mating season, bats had different priorities in mind instead of like serving their country.
Right. Their God-given purpose.
Yes.
For democracy.
Well, and it's just interesting how human males are no different. When it's mating season, everything flies out the window. And it is like, that's the priority.
I was referring to our friend's fancy speeches.
Oh, yeah. They serve absolutely no function in nature other than being put here by God for the sole purpose of defeating the enemy.
Right. So what is this other priority? Come on.
Yeah. But again, male bats and male humans, they're no different, especially right before going to war. There was a lot of babies that were made during the war, shortly before men were transferred out.
And shortly after. That's why they call them baby boomers.
Yes.
Fun fact.
And actually, on a side note, so after D-Day, if you're an American soldier and you were in Paris, like part of the liberation group, like I knew one guy, he got laid so many times during Liberation Day in Paris because like all French women just wanted to hook up with an American. Like and of course France has always been a little bit more cavalier about open sex and whatnot compared to like other more conservative countries. So like all the women just wanted to hook up with an American just so they say that they could. And shockingly, a lot of babies came out of that too.
That's not shocking at all. The baby boomer generation. So if you ever want to know where that comes from, that's where that comes from.
The baby boomer generation is more like right after the war when everybody came home.
Yeah, but it's such a long span of time that it's like,
it starts in like 1945, whereas there's a lot of babies that were born during the war, especially like in France. this kind of became a bit of a problem because there was all these babies being born shortly after like VE Day, and there was no men, no fathers to support them. So there was a lot of it caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So
anyways, but yes, you're right. The baby boomer generation is like 45, 46 to 64. Yeah. But still, my point stands.
Well, yeah, when you got a whole nation where half of the male population is in their early 20s, physically fit, like this is the healthiest they're ever going to be. Yeah, they're going to see a lot of action on the way out, so to speak.
Right.
And again, I find it so humorous that like, oh, good old fashioned conservative American values. No, there was a lot of swapping of DNA going on before they shipped that. America was not this ultra clean, morally pure country.
There's no
such thing.
Never has been.
No, because humans are going to human. That's just
right.
Yeah.
Humans be humaning.
Oh, anyway. Yeah. And making more little humans.
All right.
Or die trying. So, to make matters worse, let's meet up with the Chemical Warfare Service Lieutenant Colonel R. Bruce Epler.
Okay.
This guy is kind of an interesting character in his own right. He is the type of guy that's like, okay, if it looks stupid but it works, is it really stupid? Right? He kind of embodies that. And he also kind of struck me as I was researching this. He kind of struck me as the kind of guy that's not easily worked up. Like, you'll see. He's an interesting character in that he's not your typical military leader that's like warmongering and whatnot. But Epler wasn't going to take 150 bats as a substantial enough sample space for the test that was going to take place. So he, like in the middle of this party, he took everybody responsible on this little project, shoved them into the B-25 bomber that these poor pilots, man, they just... like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, he threw them all into a plane, headed for Carlsbad for an overnight bat collecting marathon. And Epler, I kid you not, he literally stopped off at the National Park Services and got a permit for everybody to collect the bats.
At least he's doing it through the right channels.
Like, he stops off. Like, okay, he's a light colonel, and yeah, hey, we got to do the proper paperwork before we collect all these bats.
I respect it.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, okay, guys, nobody touch a bat until we get the paperwork filled out.
So it's like when we were telling our kids when we were going camping, our students, like, all right, if anybody wants to go fishing, you need a permit. We tried to like instill the fear of God into them.
Yeah, like the poaching sheriffs would come out and game and fish. Yeah. I remember telling one of them, like, hey, if you get busted for catching a fish you're not supposed to, I'm not posting your bail. Of course, it never would have happened, especially at the lake that we were at where the fish had more mercury in them than water. Right.
Meanwhile, when we got there, I had two of the students like pulling hooks out of fish mouths and stuff. It's fine.
That was fun.
That was fun.
So the next morning, the plane returned to LA with a cargo hold of 8 crates of thousands of screeching bats. These things were pissed. And everybody in the project was pretty tired. With live testing right around the corner, the bats were loaded into the refrigerated truck, turned to max cold, mind you, so the bats could be put into their induced hibernation. Okay, everything is going to plan so far. Even with the truck running at full blast, it was taking way too long for the bats to quiet down. That's how they could tell if they were asleep, is they would eventually just shut up. So they figured, yeah, a quiet bat was a hibernating bat. So to speed things up, they got a bunch of blocks of ice, positioned them inside the truck with fans blowing on them, so that the ice would make it even colder in there in a very, very short order.
I feel like this is going to backfire.
There's
like
so many things that
soda in the freezer and then you forget about it.
Kind of like that, but not quite.
Okay.
You'll see.
Cool.
So yeah, it minutes later, everything quieted up in the truck. So like, cool. Bats are asleep. Part 5, Operation Bat Flavored Popsicles.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention that part 4. What did I have that? Oh wow, terribly exciting. Operation X-Ray, part 4. So now part 5 is Operation Bat Flavored Popsicles.
I like it.
At this point, I think it's the 19th. I don't know. It's still the middle of May. There's so much craziness that goes on that it was really hard to kind of keep track of what day it was. Kind of like the beginning of the show where I don't remember tenses. It was time to test the bat bomb once and for all. The team loaded up a 5-foot by 30-inch shell with around 1,000 snoozing bats. Right, they're just like little just hanging there. The issue is that Adams hadn't quite finished a working metal shell for the test. Instead, he had a cardboard mock-up of the actual bomb.
Okay, wait. He used a cardboard shell to shoot out 1,000 bats super glued with napalm?
Well, sort of. They actually did put some safety precautions in here.
Oh, that's good.
So, it would be really, really stupid. And the pilots spoke up and said, no, we are not having live ordnance put on this plane. Like, I understand that these things are designed to burn and catch everything on fire. We are not putting live ordnance on this plane. You can put smoke bombs on them all you want. And that would be a good way to test it to see where they landed. And, you start seeing smoke everywhere. You can get an idea of the level of destruction here without actually burning down half of LA. My favorite part, though, is just like a cardboard mock-up of an actual bomb. So this is the thing that was going to be dropped out of the bottom of the B-25. It was basically a round cardboard tube. So
okay, drop the toilet paper roll. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, it was basically a giant toilet paper tube with bats with little smoke bombs on them. The trusty B-25 that had been around for some time, running errands and doing other things, took the bat bomb up to an altitude of about 10 to 20,000 feet. The testing ground was Muroc, California, and the target was going to be a dried up lake bed outside LA.
Okay.
I feel like all of LA is just a bunch of dried up lake beds everywhere.
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
That's not true.
I'm not really from LA, so I don't know much about it. Other than I have family that lives there, and that's it. Once up to altitude, this is where things started to go wrong. The major problem was that the cardboard bomb began to fall apart in the bomb bay.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. There's something about cardboard and durability and a rough running plane. I'm not sure how many of you out there have been inside of a B-25 while it is, even with the engines running. I have it. It's a really shaky thing. It's not like a smooth fly, to say the least. So I guess they didn't really have military grade high spec cardboard back then. But I think what happened was that when they got to altitude, the glue started to break down from our cardboard, like high school science project of a bomb.
Made by Batman, Robin, and Robin.
Yes. Yeah, it's like the two random brothers had one job to do, and that was find the good glue. Or they ate the glue stick, who knows. So our bat cardboard tube fell apart, and now we had like 1,000+ bats, little sleeping bats rolling all over the inside of the plane.
Amazing.
Just like a play, the experiment must go on. So the crew ran inside all over the plane, and they were like gathering them up. They actually used their hats, and they were starting to throw these little bat bombs into their hats. And then they opened up a window and literally just launched them out the window.
Just chuck them out. Oh my goodness.
So, and they didn't really adhere to the 4,000 foot range. They were like, hey, whatever, man. Let's just get these bats out here before the timer goes off or whatever. So they started launching these little bats out the window at around 2,000 feet. I'm not sure how they figured out the 2,000 feet part of it and like how that would be like useful. But at this point, we're just along for the ride. Adams, Pfizer, the Army folks, including the Light Colonel Epler and an undetermined number of other onlookers that had like zero top secret clearance at all, were on the ground with binoculars waiting for the show to start. Instead of seeing one large shell being dropped from the B-25, they saw handfuls of bats being thrown out the fuselage in clumps of a dozen or more. So like these little black dots that were just being... So they're like, what the heck is going on up there? The Project X-Ray team figured that something went wrong with the cardboard. Shocker. But they're like, that's fine. All right. At least we can test the detonation thing. And this is where that colonel comes in. He's like, okay, well, yeah, we have obviously got to use something other than cardboard for the bomb. But we can still collect data, right? I respect that. You know, it's kind of a poo show of a test, but any data is good data. So seconds passed, and around the 2,000 foot mark, something was terribly wrong. None of the bats were waking up. They were just falling like little rocks, right? The idea was the bats were going to wake up at around 2,000 feet and then begin flying, looking for a covered location. Yeah, they were just going to like fly around, try to find a place to settle down for the day, wondering like what in the hell is going on. A lot of confused bats, but yeah, nothing was happening. The little bat bomb would go off and the spectators would see plumes of smoke emanating from wherever they landed. That was the plan. Instead, the onlookers heard, not necessarily saw, but they heard little minute poof, splat, poofed, plop, followed by little puffs of dust on the bottom of the lake bed. After about 10 minutes, the test was over with approximately 1,000 bats splattered all over the ground. Some men were sent to the lake bed to see what had happened and why the bats didn't wake up and why the smoke bombs didn't detonate. A few of them returned to Adams and the Army men with some intact bats, and it became very apparent what went wrong. The bats were frozen solid from the day before when they tried to chill the bats down into hibernation.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Hey, their method of like speeding up the cooling down process worked just a little too well.
Those poor bats.
Yeah. Actually, those are the lucky ones if you really think about it.
I guess that's true.
Because they just got cold and fell asleep and never woke up.
Oh.
Dr. Fraser later wrote, eventually it became clear that the bats were not in hibernation, but dead. Instead of freezing them to hibernation, we had frozen them to death the night before. So...
our bad news bears, they're winning.
But it gets better. So the colonel's like, okay, well... this test is a dud. And Adams and Pfizer and the military leaders and whatnot, they pile into the colonel's car and they bring some of the bats with them so that they can take them back to the lab and see what went on. Like why didn't the at least the little smoke thingies, how come they didn't work, right? Let's try to get some sort of data. In the process of driving back, one of the bats' little smoke charge detonated, and it filled the car full of leaders of the team and the military folks. It filled the car with smoke.
Nice.
And everything became opaque, and it nearly caused the whole car to crash.
I'd imagine.
Yep.
Just imagine just driving along a little pop.
It's just like white smoke everywhere.
Nowadays,
if you're in California, you see a car full of white smoke. It's not a bat.
That's probably a more fun reason.
Yeah, it's that's intentional.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could just imagine this like 1940s Ford just swerving all over the road and crashing, and all the guys come out hacking and coughing. So as frustrating and disastrous as this test had turned out, the key part of the plan worked. Detonating a time charge on a bat to go off at a specific time was actually a huge success for Adams and his team, as well as the Army folks. This was good enough to move on to the next test.
All right.
And I think what it was is instead of the 4,000 feet, everything was skewed by the 2,000 feet. And that's why the bombs were delayed in going off.
That makes sense.
And
the bats were also supposed to fly, which would buy more time.
Yep. So, and not just, turn into... And I could imagine, too, because, like, what do we do about the other 1,000 bats that are laying everywhere? Like, you get to see, like, some farmer driving along, and then all of a sudden, you just start seeing little plumes of smoke going up all over the lake bed. Like, what is going on? What is the military up to? Alrighty, part 6, Operation Mayhem. So, Lieutenant Colonel Epler, and by the way, I sometimes call a lieutenant colonel a light colonel. So instead of saying lieutenant colonel in the military, a lot of people call them light colonels because they're not like a full colonel yet.
Colonel Light.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, if you hear me say light colonel, that's why. It's a lieutenant colonel. So Lieutenant Colonel Epler decided to move to phase 2 of testing because, hey, the first one went great. But yeah, phase 2 of testing, but decided to take some controlling stake away from Adams and his team. He kind of had enough of the Bad News Bears.
You don't want the Bad News Bears to continue running this operation. The guy who thinks he had a good relationship with Al Capone, the two random brothers, the fitness guy, the hotel owner,
manager, yeah, the 2 high school students that got military top clearance.
You know, I'm on those guys' side. I'll support those guys. But Batman, Robin, and Robin, I'll support.
Yeah, or the pilot turned movie star.
Yeah, the pilot turned movie star. He has some clout, but not that much.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. Shockingly, the military is like, yeah, team, you're off. So
you're fired.
Well, they weren't fired. They still actually played a major part.
Okay.
But now the military is like, okay, we're gonna do the test site. We're gonna have a lot more oversight on this. So fair enough. So Epler wanted to see an actual shell get dropped with an actual bomb fall to an actual height of 4,000 feet where an actual parachute would eject, thus slowing the descent. And he wanted to see actual 1,000 plus bats fly out and head for cover from there and see actual smoke plumes billowing wherever they landed, right?
Fair.
He's like, all right, no more screw-ups, guys. We got to make this work. To check out those boxes and maintain a more military presence, Epler moved everything to a freshly built landing field near Carlsbad, New Mexico, replete with barracks and control tower, command building, hangars, and other sorts of military things, right? It's your standard issue, typical military base in the middle of the desert. Epler, only being a light colonel, told the full colonel of the base that they needed to conduct a top secret experiment at the base and that he and his men would need to be excluded from the experiment as a result. So on the day of the test, almost everyone was removed from the base, right? The full colonel, all right, guys, we're going to go for, a 50-mile run in the mountains because the military's got to do some testing with our base.
Okay.
This was probably the best thing that happened out of this whole ordeal was that. Thankfully, the full colonel understood and even postponed the inauguration ceremony of the newly minted airfield for some time So the top secret test could be initiated. There were actually that day that they were going to do the test, they were going to have all the pomp and ceremony and all that kind of stuff of a new airfield, right? There's a lot going on here. Adams, and let's be real, the real brains of the operation, Dr. Fisher, hammered out a lot of details between the first and the second test. An actual 5 foot by 30 inch bombshell was manufactured by Crosby Company. That is the same Crosby Company that Bing Crosby and his brother founded to manufacture supplies for the war effort.
Cool.
So like Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
Yep.
So that Bing Crosby. Yeah, I didn't know they had a company that they just manufactured supplies for troops. This shell was a full-fledged working prototype, complete with parachute, timers to open at 4,000 feet, little perches for sleeping bats to hang out on. I mean, this thing was cool. Like, it had everything except for a bathroom inside of it.
Nice.
And the bats don't need a bathroom because
That's
they're
true.
just,
They're bats.
Yeah, they're bats. They're just going to pee and poo on everybody.
Yep.
Fresh batch of bats was collected days before, and instead of the day before. This allowed the refrigerated truck to like slowly cool the bats down to put them in hibernation mode rather than flash freezing them.
I'm glad they learned.
That's good. Dr. Fraser still hadn't quite figured out the safety wire system, so the pilots wouldn't allow a live ordnance in their plane. Can't say I blame these pilots, but the smoke bombs were perfectly functional and way more safe. So they were like, fine, we'll just do another smoke test here. They assumed that napalm will burn. Like, we know that if you light napalm on fire, it burns. So I think we can just write that off as like a success, right?
Sure.
If we can detonate a smoke bomb, we can detonate napalm. So the last thing like they needed was like the whole base burning to the ground. The day of the test actually went smoothly for the most part. Bomber got to an altitude without any issues. The crew inside prepped the bat bomb to open the parachute at 4,000 feet. They checked to make sure the bats were in fact still alive. I don't know what maybe they had like a little mirror that they put their little noses and see if the bat like
a really itty bitty tiny stethoscope.
Yeah. And of course their heart rates are like
yes,
because they're so tiny.
Yes.
I don't know how they checked because I don't know if you've ever held a bat or been up close to one. They are small.
Yeah, they're itty bitty things.
Yeah,
I've been up close to them, but I haven't like held one.
Okay, yeah, they're literally like mice with wings. That's how big they are. So yes, they checked the bats. They were doing great. They were fast asleep, hanging upside down on their bomb. They checked to make sure that the smoke bomb detonators were good to go. That must have been tedious. Like they were having to like sort through all these little hanging bats and make sure that the smoke bombs were on them properly. Like, I don't know. I feel like they were like kind of like that. You ever seen those Australian hats with the corks that hang down? It's like a very stereotypical thing from the 70s and the 80s. Like Australians would wear like a broad brimmed hat, but they would have like little corks with strings on them. And the idea was that it would like chase away mosquitoes and whatnot. That's kind of what I envisioned for these bats.
Got it.
Bouncing around in there. So yeah, everything was good to go. Adams, Fraser, Lieutenant Colonel Epler, and for good measure, Marine Corps generals Louis DeHaven and his brand new Jeep. Actually, there wasn't generals. Adam Fraser, Lieutenant Colonel Epler, and for good measure, Marine Corps General Louis DeHaven and his brand new Jeep with all the stars befitting a general of his rank, like decorated, like brand new Jeep. They were all there on the ground. Eventually, they saw the tiny little cylinder drop out of the bomber. Thankfully, gravity decided to work that day because, you know, who knows? Everything else went wrong with this project.
I was going to say, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. Not work?
Yeah. Gravity worked in reverse that day and shot it out into space. Like,
you'd be like, well, on to the next one, I guess.
Project 0 Point. Here we go. So yeah, the bomb dropped straight down where at exactly 4,000 feet, a parachute could be seen ejecting upward and unfurling without a hitch. Okay. The shell slowed to a crawling descent as planned. Perfect. A few minutes later, Jack Kofer, one of the high school students brought onto the team, wrote, "Soon, tiny motes began to flutter across the sky so majestically, flying in all directions, most borne northward in a fluttering clump by the breeze. So far, things were looking really, really good. Investigators hopped into jeeps, scurrying in all directions to track the bats as they looked for little hidey holes. So, the bats kind of dispersed everywhere. Mostly all over the desert. They tracked some bats flying into a barn of a nearby farm to hole up for the day. The investigators talked to the rancher asking if they had seen anything unusual. And this farmer, just the epitome of hillbilly here, is like, yeah, like bats flying around in broad daylight. Unusual like that? Yeah. So...
That's it. That sounds right.
Yeah. If that's what you mean by weird stuff, yeah, I saw that. The investigators were real quick to be like, "Hey, look, top secret project. Like, please don't tell anybody. Like, this could really help the war end sooner. So yeah, don't spread the word on this. It's we'll say it's an alien spaceship in near Roswell." Again, perfect. All the weird stuff is happening in New Mexico during World War II. It's interesting. The rancher, the farmer, replied, "I got two sons somewhere in Europe fighting the Hun." The rancher replied, "I got two sons somewhere in Europe fighting the Hun." I guess the Germans. "If you tell me that they were your doing, however damned foolish it looked like to me, is a military secret, nobody's going to get me to say a peep, even by putting bamboo splinters under my fingernails and lighting them on fire."
Wow. That was very specific.
Yeah. He definitely, rural American here. He then pointed to one of the bats wearing a dummy bomb sitting on the windowsill, just chilling. So like they were inside of his house talking about this, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's one of the bats that you're talking about, right? He's got his little bomb on his chest." And so the bats worked. The plan was going perfectly. Back at the base, bats could be seen flying into the buildings on the side or on site and hiding in dark locations. No smoke could be seen yet, but that was by design. Fraser purposely devised the timers to take about 15 to 30 minutes before detonating. Okay, to show his brilliance to the general, Fraser took one of the bats with a dummy bomb on it and pointed out to the tiny timing mechanism. He said it's based on a copper chloride dissolved trigger. Once the copper chloride was administered, the timing wire corrodes at a controlled rate. And then once the wire is gone, then the trigger activates the smoke bomb, right? It's basically a chemical timer, kind of like a really weird iodine clock experiment.
Yeah.
In front of a bunch of photographers and witnesses, he injected some copper chloride into the bat bomb mechanism. And within minutes, a little poof could be heard, followed by a plume of white smoke. The bomb was attached to freaked out and flew away.
I don't blame it.
Yeah, like what the crap is coming out of me? Adam and Fraser did the same demonstration to a dozen or so other sleeping bats. Adams and Fraser did the same demonstration to a dozen or so other sleeping bats they had on hand, and like clockwork, they flew off to the military base to find cover. Right, so they injected him with the copper chloride and just let him go. Right, so that's how easy it was. The day couldn't have gone any better for Adams and his team. They were at the pinnacle of military genius that would bring Japan to its knees in bat bomb destruction. About 30 minutes later, people pointed out that smoke was coming out of the rafters of the barracks, then the control tower, followed by the supply buildings, and finally the command building. Some investigators began to laugh when they saw the general's jeep started to smoke. So they were like, cool, the bombs are detonating and now we've got smoke everywhere. The lighthearted moment turned sour. when someone asked if they were supposed to see flames inside the barracks.
Oh, no.
Everyone turned to see the barracks erupt in flames. Then the control tower went up like a torch. The supply buildings were engulfed in flames. And lastly, the command building, including the colonel's office, just erupted into an inferno. Absolute mayhem broke out as people tried to find fire extinguishers. However, it was evident that none were brought along because this was a test, and it wasn't supposed to have incendiary bombs. All the men in Project X-Ray could do is just stand there and watch while the military tried to put the base out using whatever means they could find. The general turned to Adams and Fraser after seeing his beloved Jeep explode into flames before their eyes. Without so much as raising his voice or displaying any emotion, the general simply asked, "Gentlemen, is it safe to assume that not all the bats were fitted with dummy smoke bombs?" When there was no reply from the dumbfounded men, the general continued, "I may not be an expert in these matters, but it does appear that some of these bats had live bombs on them."
I may not be an expert, but...
Meanwhile, like, Adams and Fraser are like, "Well, I'm going to Leavenworth. What are you going to do?" An hour or two later, the freshly built base near Carlsbad, New Mexico was nothing more than a pile of ashes. The whole place burned to the ground.
Oh, man.
Literal dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, 300 miles to the north in Los Alamos, Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer got the go-ahead to start mass production of uranium-235 at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. The Los Alamos lab itself was instructed to increase the speed of research and development of the first nuclear bomb in world history. Adams nor Oppenheimer had any idea of each other's projects at this time. So one that was worth like $7 billion got the go-ahead. The other one worth $100,000 and maybe a few $1 million in destroyed property got the axe. So
I mean, after all those failed attempts and such, I can kind of understand.
Well, and it's one of these things where, like, this was on the cusp of working. Like the idea was sound. Like, everything on paper looked good, but it's just like in practice, impossible to try to like work out every little thing that could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
Which leads us to our final part 7, Operation Change of Plans. After the destruction of an entire military base in New Mexico, the Army decided to hang up Project X-Ray and see if anyone else wanted to try researching it. Shockingly, the Marines wanted it.
Of course the Marines wanted it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Marines were in the thick of fighting the Japanese at the time of the Bat Bomb incident. And they're like, well, if it burned down an entire military base, they figured, okay, it could probably burn down entire Japanese settlements. So that was the one thing that came out of this disastrous attempt, is like, it really did have destructive capabilities.
That's true.
What does success look like? Well, a burned down military base, a general's Jeep getting torched, and all intents and purposes to the Marines, that was a successful test.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, positive assumptions. I got to give them respect. The Marines' assumption of the potential was further corroborated when investigation found out that the fires that took down the base were not the ones that were dropped from the bomber.
Okay.
The bats that caused all the damage were the dozen or so that Adams and Fraser set off for demonstration purposes in front of the investigators and the photographers. So all this destruction came about from like a dozen to 24 little bats.
That's crazy.
Again, that is a lot of destructive power. Like, it's so close to working. Just the implementation of it just went sideways in so many different ways. You see, the bats in the bomb were in fact loaded with dummy smoke bombs. However, the dozen or so that Adams and Fraser used weren't expected to be in the plane and were thus never switched over with a dummy bomb. Kind of like, oh, this is just a test. We don't need fire extinguishers.
Yeah, who needs that?
What could possibly go wrong? The fact that 12 bats could do so much damage was promising to the Marines, and they were happy to take on the project because imagine what would happen if thousands of these bats were set loose in Japan.
Yeah.
Some even argued that the bat bomb would be more effective than the nuclear bomb if they could just get it to work. It would have been an experiment of the ages to see what would be more effective, hundreds of thousands of little tactical bat bombs versus the might of one nuclear bomb. The world will never know because by the time the bat bomb was deployable on the Japanese front, a nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, which vaporized tens of thousands of men, women, and children in seconds, and another one was dropped on Nagasaki a few days later, thus doing the work of divisions of napalm-wearing bats. So the nuclear bomb was just too dang reliable. As for Dr. Lytle Adams, he stepped away from military projects after the bat bomb initiative ran out for him in 1944. After the war, he continued his career as an eccentric inventor and tried his hand at making an aerial seed dropping program to help rebuild the fauna of destroyed lands across the globe.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's noble.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I mean, not as glamorous as the fried chicken dispensing machine. Remember in the last episode?
I do like that one.
I can see you having one in your house.
No, that's too much.
I don't know. At least as a collectible.
Maybe as a collectible, but not a functioning one.
So, yeah.
Burn my house down.
No, right. He also pursued ecological engineering programs and spent his active years trying to fix the world rather than trying to burn it to the ground. So yeah, he actually did try to have a life after all of this. He died on December 29th, 1970 in Tucson, Arizona at the age of 89 years old.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, as weird as he was, I mean, the guy had a good life, if not a weird one.
Yep, it was eventful.
Yes.
Eventful is, yeah.
Dr. Louis Fisher went back to Harvard and studied organic chemistry. Throughout the decades, he was asked if he ever felt bad about creating napalm, like kind of like Oppenheimer's feelings about his role in the nuclear bomb. Mm-hmm. Remember, Oppenheimer had a lot of regret, a lot of remorse. It really, like you see that video of him on television, like reciting that Indian verse, like, yeah, it really, the last couple years of his life were just miserable.
Yeah.
I would probably be about the same. He was also dying of lung cancer, but still. He had a lot of remorse about it. But unlike Oppenheimer, Fraser was kind of the opposite. He was unapologetic about napalm, but he refused to do any more military-related projects. He and his wife, Mary, wrote very successful chemistry textbooks in 1962. He served on the Surgeon General's 1964 report that showed the relationship between cigarette smoking and lung cancer.
Wow.
In 1965, he developed lung cancer himself and quit smoking and actively promoted the committee's findings. He died in 1977, so he had lung cancer for 12 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. That's a long time and a hard
life.
Like
that's tough.
Lung cancer that's a rough one. That's a gnarly cancer. Lastly, Lieutenant Colonel Epler continued to work on classified developmental technical work until his untimely death in January 20th, 1944, in a plane crash at Elgin Field, Florida. And yes, the plane that he was in was top secret. I don't think we know what plane he was in.
Yeah.
So Lieutenant Colonel Epler, man, this guy was all about his top secret stuff, man. He was just...
That's what he did.
Going from one top secret project to the next.
Yeah, that was his jam, I guess.
Yeah. It's a shame he died, though, because he sounds like he was a pretty interesting character, to say the least. While the bat bomb of World War II was a crazy and far-fetched idea with humorous components to it, Project X-Ray did show that a result in science is still a result, especially if it ends in disaster, right? It was World War II. Any idea, let's entertain it. We don't care how crazy it is. The same way that whatever happens, even if it's a complete disaster, is still a result. So it's an interesting mindset of the time period. During World War II, America was not afraid of trying new ideas, and the country knew that not all ideas are going to work. But it's important to understand that doing something is always better than doing nothing. And who did I quote?
I don't know. It's almost midnight.
Doing something is better than doing nothing. Roosevelt. Fireside chat.
Makes sense. I'm tired.
So that is our bat bomb.
Nice.
Very different episode than what I normally do. So
It's a good one though. It's a good one.
Yeah, no, it's this is like my version of the Emu Wars.
Right.
Which I think we want to do a revisit on that one sometime.
I do. Down the road at some point.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging around, guys. Appreciate you listening. Stay tuned. I think Kara is going to have an episode coming out here.
Yeah, remember that party I was telling you about where you have everything planned and then, you have the food and the dancing and all of that fun stuff and then it catches fire?
Yeah.
That's the episode.
Oh, this is medieval times, right?
Yeah, medieval France.
Medieval France. Okay.
I don't know why I go for the French stories when I can hardly pronounce half of their names, but I'm going to try.
It is fun to listen to you try to pronounce that stuff.
That's fair.
So yeah, guys, be sure to check out the DaveSimsterFire.com, our lovely little website. We will be getting that updated with show notes. We will have our podcast. Each episode will have its own embedded player on the website, so you can actually listen to it. So if you're sitting at your computer at work, working hard, you can actually be streaming the Dave Dumpster Fire on your computer. Just make sure you minimize your window so that when the boss walks by, they can't see that you have the podcast running. So
unless your boss is cool.
Yeah, unless your boss is cool, or if your boss is interested in plans going horrifically sideways 5 minutes after implementing them, tell your boss about the podcast.
Yeah.
We're everywhere. We're on, iTunes and Amazon and the Googles and the YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to spread the word on that. You can also send us a email for ideas. We are totally open to ideas. Just like World War II, I don't care how crazy. In fact, crazier the better.
Yeah.
That's the kind of...
To an extent, yeah.
But if it's a bat-brained idea, let's go for it. So that is all I got. I know, Kara, you're going to have an episode involving a party.
Yep.
And France burning up.
No, not France. Just fire. It kind of ruins the whole party. It's the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, we will catch you on the next one and keep it a hot mess.
Bye.
Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania, somewhere on the east side of America.
Sounds like something with a P.
Yes. Get it? Right off the bat. Right. Yeah. The twisty. Killed a wabbit. The trusty B-25